As number 3 Michigan gets set to face number 10 Penn State on Saturday in Happy Valley, officials are preparing for a potential showdown between the school and the Big Ten over the sign stealing scandal. According to reports, the league is preparing to hand down disciplinary action at any moment. The Big Ten sent notice of potential disciplinary action to the school this week, with reports saying Michigan and head coach Jim Harbaugh responded by saying they would likely take legal action if any suspension is handed down. Make sure you keep it locked here on CBS Sports HQ for all of the latest developments. All right, let's talk college football with analyst Danny Kanell, who's not going to be the mayor of Jacksonville anytime soon. Just going to put that out there. All right, so Danny, let's focus on what's happening on the field in terms of this Michigan-Penn State game this weekend. This line was locked earlier in the day because there is this potential news that is expected to come down at any moment. Earlier in the week, Michigan 4.5-point favorites, the total at 45.5. So when you look at the numbers here and the situation, what's your play?
I think there's zero chance Harbaugh isn't on that sideline when the game kicks off tomorrow. I mean, it'll go through the courts. They might have some punishment coming. But as it pertains to the game, so I kind of like Penn State in this spot. The Michigan stuff is a distraction. And I know there's the thought that they have galvanized themselves and they're going to come together. But I just wonder if there's an ounce of doubt that creeps in if they are in this spot and they potentially are in a tight game. And there's just that doubt that says, man, have we been getting an advantage? Does that impact their psyche at all against, by the way, a really, really good Penn State defense that is going to present challenges even if we didn't know anything had occurred over the past few weeks. So I think this game is going to be tight. I think it's going to be down the wire. Most importantly, Jeremy, I think this game is going to be low scoring. Both of these defenses are incredible. Both of them have been outstanding. When I watched the Penn State-Ohio State game, I was there with Josh Pate, and I was on the sideline, and the defenses were flying around. There was not a whole lot of offense. You know what the offense was in that game? Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think either one of these teams has that type of game breaker that all of a sudden is going to put up 14 points by themselves with the big play capability. I think it's going to be a defensive, low-scoring affair. If it's such, I think the Penn State Nittany Lions could keep it inside that number, but I love the under.
In terms of J.J. McCarthy, he's, of course, one of the favorites to win the Heisman Trophy. How could he improve his resume with a win here?
Oh, this is huge because statistically he's positioned to put himself in the conversation. They're undefeated. They're in the national championship hunt. So he's obviously going to be in the conversation. But the thing he lacks is the moment, the big win. That's what voters do look for. There's a lot of casual voters, but those are 900 voters. They don't watch every single game. They will be watching this one on the road, hostile environment. I don't even think he has to put up monster numbers. But if it is a low-scoring game, if they're trailing late and he leads them down the field, makes a big throw, a big run, that will resonate with the voters. So that's how he can boost his stock.
Possible Heisman moment coming for the Michigan quarterback. As Danny mentioned, I mean, two of the best scoring defenses in the FBS in this one. So perhaps the total is the play here. All right, elsewhere, let's look at 8 Alabama at Kentucky. The Crimson Tide, 10.5-point favorites. The total here at 46.5. Bama can lock up the SEC West with a win here.
So I think this number speaks volumes about where Alabama is. This is why I don't think they're the dynasty that they were, 3 or 4 years ago. I think this is a tremendous amount of respect for Kentucky, but it's also the reality that Bama's just not that team that rolls into town and just boat races you on the field. I think I'm very curious to see where Alabama is mentally. They just had this emotional primetime game, against LSU, their rival. All that energy they have to replicate. Guess what Kentucky looks at this game as? It's their Super Bowl. It's a noon kickoff. It's early. And this guy right here, Ray Davis, is special. I think Alabama's defense, which it sure feels like all their problems are fixed, but remember that first half, Jaden Daniels was running all over that defense? They didn't look like world beaters then. I think it's going to be a physical game. I think Kentucky's going to try to slow it down, and I think they're going to do a good job containing Jalen Milroe and the offensive weapons that he has, not letting him run all over him. So I think in a lower scoring game, again, I think Kentucky can keep it inside the number.
All right, yeah, and you saw there, 3-0 against the spread when double-digit underdogs. Wildcats have lost 19 of their last 20 games against AP top 10 teams. Bama 38-2-1 versus Kentucky all time, but you don't need them to win.
That's right.
You just need him to get inside that number. All right, the second of 4 ranked games is on CBS. 13 Tennessee at 14 Missouri. Boy, I mean, this is a tight line. We're talking 1.5 points here. 57.5 favors Tennessee, the line does. This is a gauntlet for Mizzou here.
It is, and I tell you what, I'm very curious. There's similar philosophies in a lot of these games. I was just talking about Bama coming off an emotional game they won. This one, Missouri's coming off an emotional game they lost. This was one they went to Athens last week. week. They put up a really good fight, and it was a game a lot of people thought they could upset the Georgia Bulldogs. Now they have to come back home and get it against a Tennessee team that is a 2-loss team that really, they were a darling pick to be the second best team in the SEC East, the darling pick to beat the Georgia Bulldogs, who they play next week. A little bit of a sandwich game, but the thing I like about Tennessee and why I'm going to back the Vols here is this guy, Jalen Wright. So I think when people think of Josh Heupel, we think of the team we saw the last 2 years where they were throwing it all around the yard with Hendon Hooker at quarterback.
Yep.
I think we've seen that Joe Milton is not Hendon Hooker, and that's not an insult. Hendon Hooker was one of the best quarterbacks they've seen in Tennessee history. They've realized their identity is a physical run game. There's also a massive concern with me in Mizzou. Last week, Luther Burden III left the game. He limped off the field against Georgia. Not exactly sure where his health is. Even if he does play, how healthy is he? It's clearly Brady Cook's best target. Cody Schrager, if the Tennessee defense, their run defense, can shut down or at least contain Cody Schrager, I like the Vols in this one.
Mizzou can match their 2018 win total with an 8th win of the season here as you take a look at some of the rankings there for Tennessee. All right, the evening window, good game here. Another ranked on ranked. 9 Ole Miss at 2 Georgia. 10.5-point favorites are the Bulldogs, the 2-time national champions. 58.5 is the total. Dogs may have a spot in the SEC title game locked up ahead of this game, but still, I mean, you know they're going to come in here and look to do the business.
I've been with you in the studio the last couple weeks. Should we just play back every time I've said this? Right. Now, it's worked out. Sometimes I'm 1-1 with picking the dogs, backing the dogs the last couple weeks, but I think it's the same theme that we sit here and we go, oh, is this the team that could finally do it, that could hang tough with the Georgia Bulldogs? Now, against Florida, Georgia had no problem. Against Missouri, although I would back them again -15, I thought they should have covered that game, but it is what it is. I did not. And this one, Ole Miss, I think, is a little bit of paper tigers. They don't really have a signature win. Their defense has been struggling, and with rumblings, I don't know what to expect to do with the Brock Bowers news that he potentially could be back. I'm not going to, include that in this analysis. If they do, I would love the Georgia Bulldogs, but I do think this is the team that is the cream of the crop. I think they should be the #1 team in the country, and I think that it's a night game in Athens. Wait till you see the scene they put on there in Athens between the hedges. I think it'll be too much for Ole Miss to overcome. I think they'll be able to shut down Quinshon Judkins, so I'll back the Bulldogs once again.
Georgia win here. They go to #1?
Yes, absolutely.
Their last meeting, by the way, Kirby Smart's first loss as Georgia head coach. They talk about teams that could hang with Georgia. Maybe Ole Miss is the one this week. All right, lastly, this is going to be quick because I know what the pick is here. The All-Florida battle in the SEC, Miami at Florida State. ACC, battle. -13.5 is Florida State.
So, Jeremy, I did not know that. I might have to do something real quick. I did not know it was at 13.5. I actually was a little bit hesitant because I thought it was 14 or 14.5. If it's going in the Noles' favor where they can get an extra half point here and you only have to win by 2 touchdowns, I like it a lot. Although I do wonder why this line has come down. Are there rumblings that Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, who have been banged up potentially, could they not be playing or not progressing as thought? If you really were cautious about this one, I would wait till the last minute, get an on-field glimpse of those 2 players. If they're playing, I love the Noles. If they're not, I think Miami will get their best shot. It could slow down Florida State's offense with Jordan Travis shorthanded somewhat, but watch out for Trey Benson. I think you'll see a healthy dose of him. What I don't know what I'm going to get is from Tyler Van Dyke because he's been so inconsistent. I can't trust him on the road here. He's really struggled the last 3 games. So I'll back the Florida State Seminoles. Yes, you know I'm a Florida State guy. Take that with a grain of salt, but hopefully I'm giving out winners.
Mike Norvell said earlier this week that he hopes his wide receiver room is in, he expects it to be in better shape as they head towards this one. But Danny, earlier in the day, you did an interview with Florida State.
Yeah, with Trey Benson. Yeah, he's a great kid. It was awesome talking with him. I didn't know that he and Jared Verse, their defensive end, are roommates, and they have this war of words to see who the fastest player is. That reminds me so much of when I was there. Now, I was not in that conversation, but that was always the trash talk, was who was the fastest guy on the team. I think I'm going to lean towards Trey Benson, the running back, over the defensive end.
FSU had already clinched a spot in the ACC title game. They've won 15 straight games. They go for 16 here. Danny? Great to see you, buddy.
You got it.
See you tomorrow. College Football Saturday here on CBS Sports HQ. And, of course, Danny's part of the Cover 3 podcast team along with Chip Patterson, Bud Elliott, Tom Fornelli. Latest episode, it's the one you want to listen to every week. I mean, you want to listen to every episode, but this is the Locks Pod. That's the one you want to listen to. Download and follow the Cover 3 wherever you get your podcasts.